Hey there, hi there, ho there, and hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Certainly a lot of events that took place over the past week. Some exciting, some kind of controversial, some we won't talk about too much, but in any event, fun stuff going on for not only women's basketball, but we start to see the emergence of more and more spring sports activities with both softball and lacrosse getting into the swing of things. And some fun stuff going on with those two squads. But hey, we have got a full house in here today. As
Barely.
yeah, Daryl, I think, snuck in right as they were closing the elevator door and
Right.
waved at everybody and said, "Let's see, I've got my ticket." Uh,
Got to make you sweat, guys.
Yeah.
Indeed, it was. So yeah, going from alphabetical order, we got a case of Daryl, a Jared, a Jeff, and a Paul. How about that? I'll raise your 5 and see you 10 more. Should be a fun discussion today. As we like to kind of do, is we get into the meat and the bones of the show. Just started out with the gang and kind of catch up with them as how their week went. Case was preparing dinner while eating breakfast this morning, and I kind of wonder what happened to lunch in there. But what else is going on in your world, Case, besides culinary pursuits?
No, not much. It's been a fairly relaxed week. Glad for it to be over. It was kind of just a weird feeling week. I'm sure a lot of people in the Louisville area felt the same with the way that the weather kind of swung to a very nice high on Wednesday and then deflated everybody's feelings for the rest of the week. But made it through, and now we're back to what you can expect in February. A sunny but cold Saturday. So most of my house project pursuits, I think, will be indoors this weekend.
Wisely chosen.
I prefer the thunderstorms.
Well,
Yeah.
not one. The thunderstorms are not great because Rossi is terrified of them.
Well, it sucks. Yeah.
She's an awful co-sleeper whenever it's
Yeah.
thunderstorming. It doesn't wake me up, but she apparently kicks Lindsay all night. So
And after a very nice Thursday, I woke up yesterday morning and went outside and I was kind of like, hey, who's pulling the trick here? This is too cold. What happened to the wonderful weather we had Thursday? So it is the time of year, I guess, where things change around. Daryl, what's been going on with you this week?
I had some weather thoughts as well. Like, just glad to see the sun. It's crazy how much that improves your mood. But I can't relate with Case on that having a relaxing week. What's that like? But yeah,
usually in my industry, a relaxing week either portends doom or you've created your own doom by letting it be a relaxing week for future weeks.
True. Lack of preparation. But I'm currently dealing with a cat that just discovered her shadow on the wall, or our shadow on the wall. Any shadow on the wall she's chasing, and she's literally jumping up the walls, guys. I'm trying to explain shadows, but it's very difficult.
Pretty soon reality will overtake perception and the cat will eventually find out attacking a shadow gets me nowhere as far as the victory goes. I'm not going to win this fight.
Just don't let her watch Peter Pan.
Everybody's been saying Peter Pan. I said the same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It tells you where I am. I went to Plato's Cave, so nobody Plato's Cave. All right.
No, I have no idea.
I just watched Princess and the Frog again the other day, and I was having some of those demons in my head for shadow purposes.
Shadow people is what we've been calling them.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Is just don't hang a lot of new curtains, Daryl. Would be my advice to you.
There's all kinds of scratches on the walls. Might get some painting in the planner.
Wallpaper, vinyl wallpaper is always a great idea. Once the cat gets embedded in that, it can't get its claws back out, and so you come home and the cat's stuck on the wall.
Like a Velcro wall.
Hi, Lulu. You just hang out there for a couple hours.
You got yourself in this mess. You can get yourself out.
That's right. Don't eat too much vinyl. It's not good for you. Also, we Jared in the house with us. Jared, as always, has a busy weekend no matter what's going on. He's going to go down and cover a couple of sports today, and then do the same on Sunday, taking photos and such. Tell us about what's been happening, Jared, and what's going on.
Yeah, for I guess UofL sports, it was a fairly quiet week at home. So this weekend certainly picks up. Trying to hit baseball and men's basketball today to go see that 2013 championship team, and lacrosse and baseball tomorrow. So a lot of being out in the cold this weekend, and then excited to get back down to women's basketball next Thursday and next Sunday, just in time to see them wrap up their regular season. But yeah, so photography stuff, sports wise, is picking right back up, and from now through the next about 6 weekends, there's just no free time, no time to breathe. But that's the best way to live life for me.
On the go, on the run, and baseball at 35 degrees is just not my idea of a pleasurable afternoon in the ballpark. But
Hot hands.
yeah, those hand warmers that are right now, people seem to really like those a lot. So that
Oh,
could
yeah.
be an idea for you.
I've got them packed ready to go.
Got him, and he's ready to rock. So there you go. Jeff with us. Jeff had been out doing a little bit of work on the road this last week.
Yeah, I had a conference that I went to Monday through Wednesday. The conference was Monday through Wednesday. I left Sunday afternoon, get down there, and had a great time. It was a great conference. Made a lot of contacts with some people that will be good going forward in work and personal, career development. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of meeting people and shaking hands and all that. And consequently, as the radical, extreme introvert that I am exhausted. So, yeah, that was my week.
Here's to the weekend.
Yeah, no, and I got 2 days back, Thursday and yesterday. Got a little bit of stuff done there, but it was quiet, heads down, nobody bother me type work, which was perfect for after a conference like that.
So no riding up and down the elevator at 3 a.m. stopping
No.
on a particular floor. And
No.
shouting.
In fact, so this is at the Marriott Marquis in Atlanta with the huge atrium, right? And
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I've been in there. Yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. All concrete. It's brutalist architecture. It's, but the all the meeting rooms and stuff are at the bottom, and then the rooms, all the hotel rooms actually start above that. But the first floor of the hotel rooms is what's labeled as floor 1, and that was the floor that my room was on. So I literally never got above that first floor. So you get huge daydream, but I didn't go at any of it. So.
I think when we stayed there, we were like on the 10th or 9th floor. We were
Right.
way up there, and then just looking down into the area below, you're kind of like, "Oh, hello, Vertigo.
Yeah.
How are you?"
They have a bar area out in the atrium that you can kind of stand there and look up at this atrium. And I was talking to some other techie folks, and one person looks up and he says, "Man, I should have brought my drone."
Oh,
It's like, I don't think the hotel would be real thrilled with that, but that would be a lot of fun to see.
oh, tell that it might just get a little bit upset
Yeah.
about that one.
Better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Right.
Absolutely. You can always say, "I'm sorry." That's right. I didn't realize that I couldn't do that
Yeah.
in here. So I'm sorry. As for me, it's not a real eventful week. Had a relative come in to visit that is kind of doing that all around the nation right now, popping in and seeing people for a couple of days and then moving on, and doing this with a dog. So my reaction to it was, that's fine. We'll put the dog in the kennel and she can stay here, or they can both stay in a hotel somewhere. But they both are not staying in the house. It's not going to happen. So she came up with yet a fourth option. They both slept in the car the 2 nights they were here. And I bet they got scared a little bit on Thursday night with all the weather. But anyway, that's on and gone, and certainly still kind of in a bit of a quandary about Thursday night in basketball, but we'll get over it. And we'll talk it out today with a little bit of therapy as we get into that a little bit later on. But as we normally like to do, this part of the show, we'll give you a little scheduling and Twitter information, and we'll turn that over to Case to handle for us this morning.
Yeah, for the first time in quite a while, we've got an event on every single day of the schedule. So, definitely a busy one. This week, currently going on today, you have the swimming last day of the ACC championships for both men's and women's swimming. Track is at the Alex Wilson Invitational in South Bend. So another team heading up to, or that is up in South Bend today. Hopefully they can fare better. Rowing is in Dallas at the SMU scrimmage today and tomorrow. Softball currently underway with Wisconsin. That game is 0-0 in the middle of the fourth inning. It started at 10 a.m. The softball team will also get a rematch against Illinois at 12:30 today. Baseball takes on Bucknell in game 2 of that series after winning last night. That one's at 1 o'clock today over in Jim Patterson. And men's basketball tonight, 7 p.m. Against Clemson in the KFC Yum Center on ACC Network. And honoring, like Jared mentioned, that 2013 national championship team, or as the banner will say, 2013 number 1 in the AP, or number 1 in the coaches poll team.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Hey, I just a brief tangent. I think that putting a banner back up is the hardest part, and once they've gotten the NCAA to agree to look the other way on that, eventually they'll just make it say national champions again.
I'm just thankful that the city put up an actual national champions banner.
Do you think that they borrowed the one from Whiskey Row Lofts, or they had another replica made?
I don't know.
It would seem foolish to make another outdoor replica when there's already one right there.
Yeah,
but then if you hang up the one that was on Whiskey Row Lofts at I guess what is it, City Hall?
Yeah,
then you wouldn't have one at Whiskey Row Lofts for the game today. So
yeah,
who knows?
I want one at every building downtown.
Right?
I'm with Daryl on that one.
I'll put
And
one
the
up in.
bridge.
I'll put one up in
Even
my window.
Piernos at Second and Main.
What's the worst the NCAA can do? Give us a postseason ban this year?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Put us out of our misery.
We're going to self-impose on that one, actually.
Yeah. I think we already have.
All this
They
stuff
don't know.
about a strip of cloth. Okay, go on.
Moving on to tomorrow. As I mentioned, rowing continues that event in Dallas. Women's golf at the Moon Golf Invitational in Melbourne, Florida, an annual event for them. Another early start for softball tomorrow as they'll take on Wisconsin at 10 a.m. again. None of those games, despite being at Georgia Tech, are on ACC Network Extra, which I feel is a real failure.
Yeah.
But they are available on Sidearm, I guess, or Stat Broadcast, whichever it is. I think Stat Broadcast. Women's tennis takes on Memphis at the Bass Road Tennis Center starting at noon tomorrow. Women's basketball will return home after tomorrow's game with the road swing that they've been on. ACC Network for this one against Boston College at noon. Baseball wraps up against Bucknell at 1 p.m. tomorrow, and lacrosse gets back in action with their last game before conference play starts, which is weird to say. Only a 3-game non-conference schedule before the first conference game. They'll play many more non-conference games throughout the season, but they're playing Lindenwood at 1 p.m. That one is will be available on ACC Network Extra and is at home at UofL Lacrosse Stadium. Monday, women's and men's golf, or women's golf continues. Men's golf begins the Prestige. What a name for a tournament in La Quinta, California. At the Greg Norman course at PGA West. What a fun event that sounds like for them. And probably much nicer there than here. Men's basketball taking on Duke in Durham, North Carolina, on display for everyone to see. Big Monday, ESPN, 7 p.m. Great. Love that for us. Tuesday, women's basketball, more exciting. Tuesday, that says women's golf and men's golf, not women's basketball. Wednesday, men's golf continues. Baseball plays Xavier in a midweek game at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday because they continue doing those weird things in the early season. That one's on ACC Network Extra at home in Jim Patterson. Thursday is women's basketball, not Tuesday. They will take on Miami at the Yum Center at 6 p.m. That one will be on ACC Network. And then Thursday through Saturday, big event for the city as Louisville hosts the ACC Indoor Championships at the Norton Healthcare Sport and Learning Center. Those will be available to watch on ACC Network Extra, so that's a cool little addition. Friday, that track and field event continues despite not being listed on the calendar. The swimming, Louisville will host their last chance meet. I think pretty much everybody hosts their own last chance meet to try and make the NCAA tournament. Since those are all time-based, it doesn't really matter who you're competing against. So that will be Friday. You could head over to the Ralph Wright Natatorium and see some Louisville swimmers try to make cut times for the NCAA championships the following week. Baseball taking on Bowling Green, game one of that series on ACC Network Extra at Friday at 3. Women's tennis hosts Clemson Friday at 4. And then softball continues their events on the road. They're at the Knights Classic in Orlando, hosted by UCF, and they will take on the hosts at 7 p.m. Friday night. Just a quick check for Saturday, since all these other events have been starting before the show and while we're on the show. And yes, track will be continuing all day. Swimming last chance meet starts at 10 again on Saturday. And softball will be in action against Columbia in that Knights Classic starting at 11:30 next Saturday. So, like I mentioned, full week. As for Twitter, my tweet is at Best Case Scenario. Polly is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared. So you can see his hopefully not out of focus due to shivering, blurry hand photos. And Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. As always, you can keep up with the right side of the Cardinal Couple website for all of the UofL Athletics Twitter accounts.
If she can get online, Daryl will be with us. That's right.
That's
Dang,
hurtful.
dang. What are y'all gonna do when I don't have a Twitter anymore? I'm just gonna get left out of this part of the show.
Yes.
Yep.
I guess we'll just.
I will not be learning anyone else's other social media handles. I'm not
Guess
going
we're
to
gonna have to
repeat
learn
mastodons
Daryl's,
that have whole series things. That's not happening.
We're gonna have to
We
learn
can always
Daryl's
give him your
Instagram and
Facebook.
TikTok.
Look. We'll put you on Facebook, Daryl. Move you back there. I know you'd love that.
Nah, I'm over it, guys.
One of these things that U of L has done recently, which I'd never seen before, maybe it's because I've never followed Rocco all that closely as a SID, is he's been sending out a U of L composite schedule now. The one that I got, much by surprise, it just showed up in my email here, began on Monday the 13th and ran all the way through Sunday the 19th here. And he lists each event that's going on, where it's at, and what time it starts. In most cases, he doesn't have like when golf starts or stuff like that. But I find this very, very impressive that they're actually doing this now, where I've got that whole schedule sent to me, where I can just tab it up and say, okay, today is Thursday. What are we doing today? Oh, we're swimming in Greensboro, and wow, golly, we play basketball against Notre Dame. Ooh. So nice job, U of L. Appreciate that. I'm sure he's probably got some underling or assistant doing it for him, but good to have.
I bet it was made a lot easier by their back end change on the website. With the way it's structured now, and it probably just prints all the event days, which kind of makes me moderately angry that that you can do that for to print it out, but I can't really do that on the website, not in a way that is functional for me for our show's purposes.
I agree. I was going through that schedule this week, and I was like, "This is just why? Why did we need an update here?"
You'll find it even more and better ways to confuse the readership. Yeah. That is job number one on campus. Let's go ahead and get into the events that have been taking place. I think we'll go ahead and start it out this morning, gang, with little women's lacrosse. They are back in force, of course, playing. They'll play again tomorrow. But they actually took on a top 25 team in Colorado on Sunday afternoon and beat the Buffs 12-5. A very nice win for the Cards in this one, moving them to 1-1 on the season, and also getting a great performance in the second half out of Izzy Cycle, which is the second Izzy on the team that I can remember, Jared. and also Sarah Adeshi a goal. Uh, this is just a very nice win in many aspects for the lacrosse team because it shows that they can play with the top 25 opponent and beat a top 25 opponent. And if you didn't believe it after the Denver game that they could play that close, they did. And also, the second thing that's really convincing me here that this could be a legitimate team this year is they have held both opponents they have played to 5 goals. That's it.
Yeah, that's what's stood out for me so far is allowing 5 goals to both Denver and Colorado, respectively. And both teams are very good, and we've seen that in the past years when we've played them. So certainly something is working right on defense right now, and I know that's something Scott Teeter's really emphasized in the past about how he wants the defense to step up, and they certainly have. The offense, it's still too early in the season to tell where the offense is sitting at. I think mainly due to kind of having a little bit of a clunker there in the second half against Denver, but then a strong showing against Colorado. Lindenwood's another tough team. Recently transitioned to D1, so it will be a tough battle. But I think this is a year you rely on your defense a lot.
This was a game that actually mirrored and kind of started out like the game against Denver, where Louisville jumped out to a 5-1 lead in the first half, where they had built a big lead against Denver in the opening game, and then ended up losing it as time went on. But they were up 5-1 in the first half against Colorado, and getting 4 different players to score. They hadn't even seen anything at all out of Izzy Cycle yet. Nicole Peroni, though, had 2 goals. Hannah Morris had a goal, and Clea Dobson had a goal, and also Nagai Nakazawa, not Kokoro, but Nagai Nakazawa, the freshman sister who has come over from Japan. And Jeff, she's really come in and kind of done some good things for this lacrosse team right off the boat, so to speak, as a freshman.
Yeah, she's definitely making an impression early on. Apparently, she's just that good. So it's a nice recruiting win then there. So we kind of had a hint that she was maybe the better of the two sisters, but we didn't know that until I hadn't really gotten I don't think any of us really gotten a chance to watch her play until she got here, and has impressed really well so far. It's been a lot of fun.
I can just remember a couple years ago, Teeter saying to me, well, she's got a sister that's pretty decent, and we're certainly going to put our bid in on her. He was kind of underplaying that one a little bit as she actually played for Nihon University over there, which is not the same as a Louisville or United States University, but a preparatory university for a regular university, if that makes any sense. She led them to 2 championships and was awarded the team's most valuable player each year. She represented Team Japan in the U19 World Lacrosse Championships and also in the World Lacrosse Games in 2022. So, pretty nice resume,
Is this kind of like when Louisville football got Kane Pass just so that they could later get Jawan Pass? I mean, Kokoro is good. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take anything away from her, but it feels like there was maybe some future recruiting in mind when recruiting Kokoro.
I'm not going to take that step off that pier, so I'm not going there, Case. But
if you're listening, Scott, I don't mean to take any offense.
And he has occasionally listened to the program. So anyway, I'm sure if he did, I'm sure I'll get this. Who do you like in the 12th at Gulfstream? And also, but anyway, my ambition is to get both the guy and Kokoro on the same interview, and have Teeter sitting in between them with his head on a swivel.
I think that'd be fun. Don't forget that we had Narika for women's basketball recently too, and I thought she did excellent.
Narika did a very good job up there. I was very proud of the way she represented herself. Yeah, she did a really good job. She wasn't as confused as the time I interviewed her, in the basketball media days when I challenged her to arm wrestling, and she stood up.
Oh my God, Paul!
You mean you confused someone in an interview?
I did.
Way.
Like my brain just can't. It can't.
I'm shocked.
Can't craft the image.
I was just teasing with her because I had her smiling, well, and chatting with this, and now here, the first time we've ever done this at a women's basketball day, and Erika and I are going to go over to this table over here and arm wrestle. Smiled at her. She stood up. She was ready to walk over to
Yeah.
the table.
She's ready to kick your butt and arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Uh, hey, Jeff, would you hold this microphone just a second?
Yeah.
I'm about to get my arm kicked in arm wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's always good to see like that, and certainly the sisters. And we've seen obviously sister combos before. Make no doubt about that. I can think of the Schimmels right off the bat as one, and we've certainly had many more over the years. But
Well, lacrosse had a pretty
Blaylocks.
famous
Ah.
yes,
twins.
indeed.
The pride of New Egypt, New Jersey.
That's right. One of the best train stations in the world.
That's right.
Right there.
Yeah.
So it's good to see them do that, and certainly I think it's good maybe for Kokoro to have her little sister on campus with her, and kind of I don't think she's a steadying influence on her like Jude had to be with Shoni when she was here.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, at least it needs to be, but
yeah, it probably doesn't need to be, but I think it's going to be fun for me to try to get them both in an interview at the same time, and then ask them which one of you is the better player,
yeah.
and watch the sparks fly. Daryl, they play again, of course, at playing Lindenwood, bringing Lindenwood into town, who all they did last year was win the D2 championship in NCAA lacrosse. A challenge here for the Cards, indeed. But this Louisville team has certainly shown, if nothing else, they can play the lights out on defense this year.
You know, Paul, I was just curious, and I looked at last year's schedule for lacrosse, and they actually faced Denver and Colorado in those first games of the season, of the 2022 season. Looking at the final scores, they lost to Colorado, who was unranked at the time, 13-14 in overtime, and lost to Denver, 9-19. So you look at 2023, and they're, both of those teams are ranked now. Denver wins, but it's a close one, 5-4, and then the Cards get the win versus Colorado pretty handily, 12-5. So I mean, it just kind of shows some improvement in the last year, able to get one of those victories, and two good showings against ranked squads. I mean, if you see some improvement, you think that the Cards are going to be able to put up some pretty good defense against Lindenwood. I mean, the signs are there. You have two good showings against ranked squads, and then you bring another one into the house, and I haven't been able to get my eyes on this team yet, but looking forward to having the opportunity when it presents itself. I think that we've seen an improvement over the season, and you like to get 1-1 to start the new season.
We have seen over the years that Teeter has done this with valuable, experienced players to get off to a good start. This year, it seems to be kind of a mix, though. As for example, let's look at the players who have scored so far. Nicole Peroni, we know she's been around for years. Fantastic player. Izzy Cycle. I had not heard of her before this year. Yet here she is, tied for the lead in goals scored. Hannah Morris, we know that name quite well. 2 goals, but Nagai Nakazawa, a freshman in here. We knew the name Nakazawa, just didn't know the Nagai part. And it goes on down to Lauren Figgis. I didn't know who she was. Rayan Atkins, I did not know who she was. Both have scored, though. So Teeter's getting it done with the youth, I think, and that's a good thing, as well as having some experienced players in there.
But yeah, I think you can look at, like you mentioned, past seasons when the familiar faces are scoring a lot early, and you're like, wow, that's great. But what about when other teams that you play learn to lock that down? I mean, lacrosse is very similar. We've talked about to basketball, and if you can take the ball out of the scorer's hands, you can make things a lot more difficult. So I think that it's impressive for Louisville to have so many younger players stepping up and taking advantage of their opportunities. I mean, you mentioned Izzy Cycle, sorry. I didn't have the page up and misremembered the last name, but being tied for the scoring lead on the season, and she scored all 4 of her goals in the second half of this game. So she's making the most of her opportunities when other teams have seen, you need to take away Nicole Peroni, right? That's going to be the goal for every team this season playing Louisville lacrosse. And if you can count on Hannah Morris to step up, you can count on Nicole Peroni to score when she gets the chance and when it matters. And then you can count on these other younger players to kind of fill the gaps, then it's going to make a big difference for this offense. And then we got our question answered about what Teeter was going to do in goal with Sarah Adesh getting the start again and then making the most of it and getting herself named co-defensive player of the week for Louisville's first weekly honor in the ACC since 2017. There's all the signs, like Daryl mentioned, that this team could be very strong on defense and could do something with offense catching up. Our biggest concern after the Denver game was the defense was there, but the offense was nowhere to be found. And then in this game, somebody found it. So hopefully they can continue. I mean, Lindenwood's not going to be a walk in the park. They lost to Cal to open their season 9-17, but then they beat Central Michigan 17-15 on Tuesday. So the jump to D1 has already resulted in a victory for them. So they're not to be taken lightly.
Let's just put it into perspective, though. You can beat up on non-ACC schools all season long and build a bit of a resume, but the actual main 18-ounce T-bone shows up in front of you when the ACC schedule is there, and then all of a sudden you're looking at having to play the best programs in D1. So that's, to me, as it's been in past years, what's going to be the bottom line and the factor here is how are we going to play against Virginia? How are we going to look against Boston College or North Carolina? What's going to happen here? So I don't think that this these clothes are still in the dryer, not ready to take out and hang yet. Let's see what happens once they are. Okay.
I think a reasonable goal for ACC play is 3-5. You've got 9 ACC teams right now, so if you take yourself out of it, you have 8 conference games during your schedule. Go 3-5. It's a big step up from recent years.
Wouldn't
and
you
it
love to
shows
see
improvement.
that with one
I mean,
ACC
and anything
win in
above
our
that
history?
is great.
One ACC win in our history.
Hmm.
But added Clemson this year to the league. What did they do? They came out and scored 21 goals in their first game. Gee, they had a trouble building a roster, didn't they? Then you've also got Pittsburgh, who was in their first year last year, brought us up there and then proceeded to beat us. So even though you're bringing in new teams, I don't think you're diluting the strength of the league at all. I think that's pretty important.
I think Louisville gets a good opportunity to start the season playing. If the schedule will load for this year, playing Virginia. It's on the road, but last year the Cards got them at home. Nearly picked up their second ACC win under Teeter after picking up the first against Virginia Tech. They only lost to Virginia by 1. So if they can come out, they can beat Lindenwood at home and go on the road and have a strong showing against Virginia. Last season, they started their ACC play with a win and then didn't win anymore. But if they can win another ACC game to open their conference schedule this year on the road would be nice. Then you're going to go to Vanderbilt and come back home against Cincinnati. 2 regional rivals in a lot of the spring sports. And if the Cards can, be sitting at, what would that make it? 4-1, 5-1.
Math is hard,
If
Case.
they could be 5-1,
right.
bringing in Pittsburgh, who they had to play twice last year and lost to twice last year. They could be in a really good spot.
So I had to put down my cup of coffee earlier to count past 5. So good
Well,
point,
I
Daryl.
forgot how many games that were between there. Okay, don't worry about it.
Just go to Cincinnati one time with me and Jared, and your life will change. Okay, that's what we need here. Let's see what happens with lacrosse. Fingers certainly crossed that they'll do good things. Let's kind of move it on across campus a little bit here, and then take a look at a team that isn't on campus, but is playing a little softball, and actually playing some pretty good softball up to this ACC Big Ten tournament that's going on now currently. Jared, what's going on here? this team is looking pretty decent, and they've got more than one pitcher.
Yeah, they had a great opening weekend, minus the loss to UK. They went 4-1 last weekend through wrapping up on Sunday. Great start to the year. A little bit of a, I guess, questionable outing yesterday. Offense really couldn't get going. Lost 6-1. They threw young pitching staff, kept Roby and Gabby Holloway on the bench for the most part in terms of pitching. Roby was still in there at the plate, pinch hitting. So I was a little thrown off the fact that, I guess not that they lost, but that they lost by a larger margin than expected. Hopefully, maybe it's just a early season goof and they'll get by it. I mean, you got Illinois another time this weekend and Wisconsin twice. Neither Illinois nor Wisconsin had a great start to the year. So I think UofL could easily finish the weekend 3-0, or hopefully at the very worst finish it off 2-1 today and tomorrow. But yeah, it's still early season, so I'm not overly concerned at this point.
One of the things that you also have to kind of look at here in terms of what softball is been able to do and is going to do is that the portal has been fairly decent to Holly April, and it has been this year as well. And getting in one of the better shortstops, I think, out there. You take a look at some of the things that they've been able to do so far, and going to of all places Georgia State, which I'd really not heard of all that much. But Jeff, the portal even in softball can prove to help build a team up quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Great addition this year. A couple of great additions last year, and have really kind of added to our offensive capabilities. I think, which was, a little suspect in years before that. So, we had a little bit of. We talked about it several times about the injury bug last year that really hit us. So I don't think we really got a good understanding of just how much it helped us with some of those portal players coming in, transfers coming in. But we get a great shortstop. Let's hope she remains healthy. Let's hope the whole team remains healthy. You always want to see that, and hopefully we can get a better sense of what's really coming out of the portal and what's really coming out of this capability with this coming year.
And Daisy Hess really does. She's excited to be in Louisville, and I mean, how many times have you had a softball player come in and say, "Hey, I'm fired up. I'm in Louisville, man. I'm playing in the ACC. Look at me. Let's go."
Well, if you got to come here,
Hannah File was last year.
Yeah, well,
I mean, if you got to come here from Atlanta, you would be too.
You might be right on that. I've never spent more than 48 hours in Atlanta, and that was 48 more than I wanted to. So.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned Hess bringing offensive capability, but I think that her defensive ability is just as critical. Having a former high school Gold Glover at shortstop is something that Louisville can definitely use.
Yeah.
They had a fielding percentage of .955 last year, which you're like, oh, .955, that sounds high. Except .955 is not great. You'd really rather be much, much closer to 1,000. Louisville's currently sitting this season at .938. Way too many early errors, including a number of them yesterday that led to more unearned runs. I think that Louisville has now allowed, let's see here. They've allowed 27 runs, or 16. They've allowed 16 runs, and only 7 of those have been earned. So Louisville has given up 9 unearned runs so far this season.
That's rough.
That's not good. That's really not good. It's hard to win games when you give up that many runs that your pitchers have tried to get you out of. And it's kind of the case yesterday. Plus the offense disappearing completely. Not getting anything out of a bases
they had the bases loaded. Yeah, I mean, you need to capitalize on that. You got to, but
no double plays, no strikeouts, no runs. So you put the ball in play 3 times and got nothing out of it. That's not good.
One Daryl I'm sure will enjoy here. I was reading some of the bio on Daisy Hess, and her nickname is Flower. How about that?
That's funny, Paul, because I'm looking at our roster, just stats, and we've we've put someone's nickname on there, Madison Pickle.
Oh yeah, pickle.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can't
yes.
believe they
She
actually
prefers
put
to go
that.
by Pickle.
I can't believe they actually put that on there on the official record. So
I'm
that's
gonna have to start addressing her as Pickle Winkler in
Pickle.
the
Wing.
articles instead of Madison
That's right.
Winkler. I
It
think,
is
That's
Pickle.
awesome.
if it's what she goes by.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got a pickle. We've got a flower. Oh, yeah, it's like a little outdoors cafe in
She's got a
midsummer,
garden.
right?
Yeah, there's gardening over there at all.
That's-
Could I get a chicken salad on a croissant here? Huh?
I don't know if you guys have checked this morning. We're in the top of the 6. It's 0-0. So
Okay.
looks like Garrity just got on, and Otis is at bat.
And Garrity's another one that came in this year, I think. That's come in. If you can check me on that, but I think she's a transfer in that just stepped in and said, "Okay, yeah, I'd like to play a little ball. Holly, put me in there."
Yes, Paige Garrity, a junior, last college, Auburn.
Ooh, we've had
And
some.
she's currently batting second in the lineup. She's 0 for 3 today.
Coming
But
out of
he's
the
on base.
ACC though, coming is nice.
Yeah,
so
even
Louisville-
if it is
Louisville has-
Auburn, who sent us a lot of players for different reasons.
Louisville has 4 transfers on the roster, but one you wouldn't really think of as a transfer because she's been here for quite some time. Michaela Hurst
Right.
Oh, wow.
officially came from University of Utah.
That was so long
a
ago.
long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to get off of this game without giving a shout out to Alyssa Zabala, who pitched. The stats don't really give it the credit that it deserved, but I mean, she went 3 2/3, gave up 5 runs, only 3 of them were earned. She had 6 strikeouts in that time, so
Nice.
she pitched a pretty good game for a freshman. It was her first loss. She's 2-1 on the season now.
And as a freshman, obviously, tons of room to improve. Getting good experience against a fairly talented, I think, Big Ten team in Illinois. We'll see what happens as she progresses with her career.
Yeah, Illinois' record is also a bit deceiving. Their win over Louisville yesterday moved them to 3-3, but their losses were to 3 top 20 teams in Auburn. I'll put it in the article, and now I've forgotten the third team. Texas, Auburn, and the last one was Tennessee. So, I mean, they've had a pretty tough road to hoe for the first part of the season.
And I had a thought as well as when I talked about lacrosse and how they started last season. I mean, Holly April's in her 5th year with the Cards so far. So
that sounds right.
I feel like I'm seeing improvements of her coaching, and got over 500 last year for the first time in quite some time. So yeah, just looking to build off of that, and I think there is some excitement around the softball program for this season.
One of the things that Holly kind of stressed to me when I interviewed her earlier in the year is that she's not going to have one of those Powerball teams that's going to go up in the bottom of an inning or the top of an inning and put 7 or 8 runs on you with 3 or 4 home runs. She does not build her teams that way, unlike some schools who do, obviously. And when asked about it a little bit further, she said, well, I'd like to think that if I'm building a team that's going to be one of those that can maybe get a run or 2 here and then preserve that and then maybe get into a tie and then come back and get a run to win it. She goes, that gives me a lot more versatility in my players.
Mm-hmm.
They're not up there just swinging for the fence trying to get a 3-run blast. They might be trying to pop one over the shortstop's head to drive a run home or get on base.
You know, though, sometimes that's what it takes is in these games where you can't get on base, you can't get around, you got to get it out. I mean, I can think of a few times last season where that's where the Cards fell. They just couldn't get around the bases, and the other team was able to get the ball out of the field, and you have no choice. So it's just sometimes I feel like that's the way you have to win. So, I mean, I hope she still keeps it in mind as a possible game plan.
I don't think she's telling anybody not to hit the ball over the fence. Just to
I mean, if
clarify.
Roby happens to put one out, I'm
Right.
sure she'll.
But
What did you do that for? All I wanted was to double off the left field wall.
Don't credit us with that one. Keep that one off the scoreboard. We didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, that was
Based on-
that
We
was
weren't
based on
planning
that
on that.
that
based
was
on that
foul,
statement,
and you
though.
all missed it. That is not a home run.
When Roby hits another car on 65 or something. It's down
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah.
You know what though? Now that you mention that, Paul, I'm just curious if that's the mindset that she's coaching these players as well, because I think that you might be turning away some good, potentially good players that could come to Louisville if that is their mo is going yard.
When she answered the question and she was sitting up there with Daisy Hess and Taylor Roby, she kind of just stared at me and says, "We are not going to be a powerful team this year."
Oh, that's what you want to hear.
Well, I think she means like big power, but based on that statement, I mean, if she's coaching small ball, and that's fine. I mean, Louisville has a lot of fast players, and they've got a lot of good contact, but that makes me think that if you've got bases loaded, nobody out, and you don't score, then they've got some sprints waiting for them when they finish this weekend.
I know that errors and base running was just a kind of a struggle for Holly April's teams a couple years ago. I felt like last season they improved on that, and they finally got over the 500. They had a winning record, so just got to keep making those improvements and meeting those benchmarks and doing better.
And if you do, then things will come your way, and hopefully they'll come their way for us.
And the Cards did not score in the top of the six, so heading to the bottom, still scoreless.
Here we go. We got a pitcher's duel going on. Yep. I think one area that we need to talk to about a little bit as well, we haven't gotten into yet, is basketball, women's basketball. I'm gonna throw the big pizza out there in the middle of the room, and y'all take as many slices as you want on it. But yeah, we lost to Notre Dame in overtime.
Oh, just wait till that game back here, guys. Just wait. Yeah. I think we're getting 15,000 in there, and we might run them out of the gym. I hope.
It was a strange game in a lot of ways. I'll just make a couple comments, and whoever wants to jump in on it. From virtually no fouls in the first half to a plethora of fouls being called for every possible thing you can think of. Infractions being called. If you looked wrong at
not everything you could think of, since they missed a few.
Yeah, until the end of the game, where Olivia Miles went over, carried the basketball with her to get a drink of water, then came back out and took a shot to win the game. That's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration, but
not much.
4 steps.
4 steps, yeah.
Right near D. Hunter or D. Cantor, who considered one of the better referees in women's college basketball, who conveniently did not see it. What else would have she been watching at the end of the game? D?
Well, I wonder if she was remembering that check up against the glass that Olivia Miles had against, I think it was Casa, sent her flying across the floor, that they didn't call.
It's just it boggles me sometimes how where you're at and who you're playing, and the fan attendance can intimidate refereeing, and that was a pure case of it. If you were to show that play to 12 high school refs, I'm sure they would all call a walk. But anyway, who knows?
Well, maybe she just didn't want to miss her flight.
Yeah.
They were already in overtime. I mean, what are we supposed to go to double overtime just because the player walked? I mean, come on.
Probably afraid the hotel bar was going to close on her before she could get back there. But anyway, whatever the case may be, it was certainly one that Cardinal fans have been a little bit upset about. But still, Notre Dame did what they had to do. They scored on the final shot. And credit to Olivia Miles, even though she walked.
Good shot.
Yeah. Once the ball left her hands, it went in.
Yeah. Still had to make it.
What does this do to the Cards, though, now? Everybody was really pointing toward this one as one we had to have, one that we're going to get, one that's going to get us right back in the ACC race. And now, after the letdown, now you've got to go to a Boston College team who, hey, let's not mince any words here. This will be the second time that we've been up against them this year. And they played us pretty close that first game. This was only an 8-point game, and it was at our place.
Yeah, this is not the doormat team, Boston College, that we're used to. They're still, not spectacular, but they're not just like an embarrassment anymore. So you definitely have to take them seriously. You talk about you got to take every game seriously in the ACC anyway, but it's becoming even more so now, more true now. So, and I think Boston College is a perfect example of it. She's doing some great things up there with that team.
Yeah,
certainly
they've
doing
lost
something.
5 in a row. So
Well, yeah,
they're definitely going to be hungry.
yeah,
The A win would, I don't know. They're still pretty far away from not playing on the first day of the tournament, but
yeah.
um, like Paul said, not a team to be taken lightly. Uh, Unfortunately, a win for Louisville over Notre Dame would have put the Cards in a 3-way tie for third, um, with Notre Dame and Virginia Tech instead of a 3-way tie for fourth. Um, or sorry, a 3-way tie for second instead of a 3-way tie for fourth. But um, you just gotta take care of business against Boston College. 4-15 overall, 4-12 in the ACC. It's a game you should win, but Louisville has had games they should have won this season go the wrong way. So
And this is one I will be staying home to watch on the internet tomorrow instead of going out to watch lacrosse. So my apologies to the lacrosse team for not getting out and catching their action live and doing an interview with them. But this one I think means too much for me not to watch it. Jared, Boston College has always played us close over the years, even though they're not exactly having the best of seasons right now. They played us close in that first game. Uh, what's Louisville's mindset got to be in this one going up there?
I think you need to look at a lot of the positives that you had at Notre Dame. I know, regardless of the whistles or lack thereof at the end of the game, I thought UofL showed a lot of fight and major glimpses of UofL teams we've seen in the past. It didn't kind of feel like this UofL team that struggled on and off throughout this year. They were clicking well. Offense was rolling. Defense really stepped it up at times. I think maybe if you can make a few layups here and there, it's a different type of ball game, or knock down a couple more free throws could certainly help. But I think you just really need to ride some of that momentum, regardless of it being a loss. You have to ride some of that momentum and all the bright spots you saw up in South Bend and take that with you to Boston College. Because Boston College is not going to roll over and play dead for you. I mean, they're going to give you a big fight. And I think Jeff Walls has mentioned that before. It's just a lot of those roots that come from when him and Joanna Burnaby McNamee were assistant coaches together. And they all have a similar philosophy. And they're going to play hard. Just go back to Louisville style basketball. They'll be fine. And make layups.
That would be a thing that
Make
we would love
layups.
to be able to see. Yeah,
How sad that we have to make that comment these days. Ah.
if we could convince Morgan Jones that the ball in there would be great, no
Oh,
matter how great you look to get in open and get into the basket to put up that impossible shot. Putting it in the basket would be nice as well.
yeah.
I'm not calling anybody out or anything, of course, on that. But hey, this has been an interesting team this year. At times, this team has looked like to me it could be on a four contender. And then sometimes they just go in these inexplicable stoppage of actions where an opponent will score 9 or 12 points in a row on them, erase a big lead, or even build a lead to a bigger lead. Uh, can any of you all figure this team out this year? Because they've got me baffled.
Nope.
I think it's important to remember, like, we're talking about this game as if this is a Louisville we're used to, but like you said, Paul, this is a team that has been baffling, and they were playing a top 10 team on the road, and you know had the chance to win the game. They take them to overtime, they lose by 2 points. They had a 4-point lead after the first quarter, had a 4-point lead at halftime, but I think people are putting a lot of pressure on this team that has not shown necessarily. Yes, they've shown glimpses of the way we expect Louisville to play and the performances we expect from them, but the season as a whole has not been that team, and it's kind of unfair to put the expectation on them that, oh well, geez, you went to Notre Dame, went to overtime, you should have won. It's like, well, unranked versus top 10 team on the road. I give credit where it's due. Yes, it would have been really nice to win the game, and yes, they probably should have won the game. But if they can come out tomorrow and take care of Boston College, whether that's a big win or even if they skate by, as long as you get a win's a win. Looks the same on the stat sheet. Louisville's gonna make the tournament as long as they continue to win the games that they should, especially if they can continue to put up good performances and win games that this team, even if Louisville should in the past, maybe this Louisville team shouldn't be expected to.
And it's what Jeff Walls will tell you. W's are the important thing. It doesn't matter how they get them. Just get
Yeah.
the W. This team, when they beat Clemson a week or so back, they looked like they could have taken on Stanford or anybody else, South Carolina in the nation, and absolutely rolled the floor with them in the first half. But then came the second half. The complexity of two different squads. Okay. Uh, Starting lineup switched a couple games back. Thoughts on that? You took out obviously some pretty good players, and
I
instead
think
you've got
it's
Enrique out there and
I think
some
it's
others.
been a great change. I mean, you look at playing a very good Notre Dame team very closely using that starting lineup. Obviously, that's only the starting lineup, and there are other factors that go into that. But and we talked about some of these players. Sometimes maybe they do better if they just take a few minutes and get the pace of the game. We talk about Morgan Jones sometimes playing a little bit out of control, and maybe kind of hold her back and say, get the pace of the game, don't get some of that adrenaline, let it settle out, and then maybe play a little better. Hopefully, it seems to be working.
They're 4-1 since they switched it.
Yeah. So and the one loss was a very, very close loss in
Mm-hmm.
overtime to top 5 team. It's hard to fight, hard to argue that success.
You've got Casa at point guard. Obviously, I think about that. That's CC looked like she was going to be our point guard, and comes in and does a good job when she comes into the game. But Costa said, "Hey, coach, I've been doing this for a long time. Forgive me if I can't hit a mid-range jumper, but I can run the points pretty good."
Yeah, they're almost diametrically opposed as players because Casas is not a spectacular shooter, never has been. It's never been a strong point. But Cece is a great shooter, but she just doesn't seem to run the point well. She doesn't seem to run the game well. So, let Casa run the point and be, attack Yorkie extraordinaire, and let Chrysalin be that shooting guard that's, score the points.
Cece and Haley are both more effective on offense when they're off ball. I don't know how much you've noticed that, but if they have time to work their defender, create separation, and then let Mikasa or whoever's running the point find them, they're knocking down shots a lot more. I mean, Haley's really found her rhythm the last 2-3 games, and Cece's been on a roll, and that's been a lot of just coming from the fact that they're not running point guard.
You look at it's 2013 day, right? So if we look at the 2013 men's team, you had Peyton Siva, one of Louisville's best point guards. I think people would argue he was not a scorer, right? And he was still one of the integral parts of the team. He scored 8.4 points per game at UofL, and I can't find his high because this website is not easily navigable. But I mean, he scored 8.4 points per game, and you would never dream of saying, well, he shouldn't be the starting point guard. It's the same thing with Mikasa Robinson. I mean, Russ Smith could run the point, but he could also score. You could have played him at point guard and maybe put another shooting guard out there at the expense of Peyton Siva on the bench, but you're going to lose one of the most critical positions on the floor as far as a floor general that can run point, that plays excellent defense, that knows how to get the ball around. I think that having Mikasa in that spot, despite the splash of bringing in CC as a transfer, and despite what she can do offensively from a scoring perspective, I think that we've seen the effects of putting Casa back in that starting lineup, and maybe it should have been done sooner.
Right, and Casa's got that toughness that she can go one-on-one defensively against anybody. I mean, it could be the post player that stands a foot taller than her, and she's going to hold her own just because that's the type of player and person she is. So you have to have her out there.
And I think I texted in our group the other day that we have officially unlocked beast mode for Casa, because I just feel like the consistency is finally there. I think that I'm confident when she puts up a jumper. Oh, breaking news, guys. Cards are up 2-0. Top of 7. Got runners in scoring position. 2 outs.
Nice.
So I'm just so confident with Casa on the floor now on both ends of the floor. She's putting up solid numbers, scoring, sharing, securing the ball. And it's what we needed. It's another level of um, just seniority and experience that this team needs. I think Morgan Jones is still struggling to find her role, which is why she kind of is coming off the bench now. I feel like when I was looking at the stat sheets in the beginning of the season and when she's starting, she's not really putting up great numbers or a lot of minutes. So, I mean, she's just there was a glimpse of, I can't remember which game in particular, maybe it happened in 2 games this week. She got out in front of the defense with the ball, and instead of bouncing it off the glass too strong and it bouncing off the front of the rim, she let the defense run past her and then put it up and in for an easy point. That's what we need from Morgan, because she's so fast, and we know it. You don't need to prove how fast you are. Be smarter. And there was another instance in that game where Coach Walls had to call that timeout with Haley under the basket with 3 seconds on the clock. I specifically saw Marissa Russell trying to get her attention from the bench to do some play that Coach Walls was calling, and she was missing it. And that's when Coach Walls got in her a little hot in her face.
Oh, I know that play. It was an ISO for Haley, and Morgan went to the wrong spot and drew her defender onto Haley.
And Marissa was trying to coach her before, time ran out, and it just didn't land. She didn't see the message from either coach or Marissa. So it was just, this team still has some improving to do, but it was good to see Marissa from the bench coaching her team and just being another positive influence for the team. I think she doesn't get enough minutes. And I think she's just a really good player to have come off the bench as well.
Certainly one that had her option of either staying here or taking off with Sam Purcell at Mississippi State. She chose to stay, and I think we're glad she did. Very much so.
I think Marissa understands the game plan better than most of the players out there. So even though she may lack some of the raw talent that some of the other players do, she watches film very well, and she knows the game plan, and she knows where everybody's supposed to be on the court. And that's a huge asset, especially in a tight game. If we were talking about like the floor general earlier, she kind of plays the role of a floor general, even though she's not a point guard.
Yes, she does. She's very vocal, and it's noticeable, and I just think it's a good thing to have.
Playing with the Canadian team as well has certainly sharpened and honed those skills a little bit, I would think.
And her and Haley are really good friends, so they work out together, which certainly helps.
Yeah, I think they went to the draft together, didn't they? To see Emily get drafted?
They sure did. They are buds.
That's
and
awesome.
Certainly it's good to have guards that like other guards. That's always nice.
Saying such a statement for no reason at all. No need to analyze that.
No need to analyze that. You got to have guards that like your other guards on the team. Otherwise, you get into a situation of, well, we won't go there. One final question for you here, and then we'll get into some final thoughts, I think. But I get these emails from people. I get conversations with friends of mine who know I know something about the women's basketball team, although it's always arguable on how much I actually know. What's wrong with Haley this year? And I kind of look at them and I go, I don't think there's really anything wrong with Haley this year. Are you being serious? Well, yes. Well, she didn't do this in that game, and she didn't get 20 points in the last 2 games. I'm like, well, what are you expecting out of her?
Haley's always funny because you think you watch her and you go, oh God, she's just not hitting shots. She's playing terribly. She's not playing up to her perspective. And then you look at the stats and she's got 19 points. And you look at like Crystalline Carr, CC, and she's like, wow, she just bombed the ball, hitting everything. And, basket looks like, the size of a barn. And then you look at her stats and she's got, 12 points. Like I think there's some unfair comparisons going on there. I get it, right? Because I get kind of that same reaction with Haley as well. But I do think it's a little bit of an unfair criteria that she's being judged on.
Haley, nothing wrong with her. How about you, Case?
The only concern I got with Haley is her turnover numbers have been a little high, but
they have been high. Yes,
I thought she's been fine from every other aspect recently. I mean, she's finally found her shot again, knocking them down. Her assist numbers are going up again, and her defense. I mean, she's really stepped on defense. So I'm not really overly concerned like I was maybe a month and a half ago.
Haley has the most minutes on the team by a whopping 7 per game. She's playing 37 minutes a game well, 36.9. Next highest is CC at 29.9. She's shooting 42% from the floor. She's scoring, where'd it go? 19.1 points per game. The next highest is 11.6 CC.
Yeah.
And yeah, she has the most turnovers, but her turnovers per 40 minutes would be not terrible compared to the rest of the team. And I mean, yeah, she's the most visible player out there when she's not having, when she's missing shots. It's most visible because you expect her to be scoring shots, but she's out there more than everybody else, and she's doing what she's supposed to do and scoring more than everybody else. So I don't really get the question, like you said, Paul. What's wrong with Haley? I don't know. Your expectation of how basketball works.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what's wrong with Haley, I guess.
In your eyes, Haley fails, but not in Haley's eyes, and that's the only eyes we're
Not in the
worried
team's
about.
eyes, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Her stats in terms of shooting aren't much different than that you see in the WNBA and NBA, where players will drop 30 or 40 points, and you're like, well, they also only shot like 35% from the field, so there's a lot of missed shots in there too. So it's no different than any other level of basketball.
And so I kind of see where this is going. So far, my esteemed colleagues are seeing nothing wrong with Haley, except the occasional blip here or there. So, do the rest of you agree? Is everything all okay with Haley? Just
I mean,
I
I
think
think
she's
that
fine.
she would like a few more wins on the record, but I mean that's all part of the process, and she'll have the opportunity to prove the haters wrong in the postseason. Now I'm just hoping it's with a double by an ACC tourney.
absolutely so. We all want to see that as well. And as far as I'm concerned, I think Haley is fine. Let's put a couple things out there just to preface it, and then I'll finish it up. She's no Asia Tour, and she's no Dana Evans, and I don't think anybody could ever confuse her with being one of those two. But she's Haley Van Lith. There are certain things that she does very well. There are certain things that you might want to mask and cover on her. I don't think she's much of a defensive player, but that's just my opinion. Okay. But is there anything wrong with Haley Van Lith right now? No. Take a look at her numbers. If you're going to look for problems with the Louisville women's basketball team, just look for these a cessation to these periods where the Cards fall asleep for 4 minutes and allow a 9-0 run on them. That's where I think some problems lie. And if you get to be able to cause and affect those.
Fantastic. I don't want to take anything away from them. For as fantastic as both Asia Durr and Dana Evans were, they never had the expectation that Haley has had, that she is supposed to be the star player and win games for the team alone, like Haley has had over the last 2 years. It's kind of insane. Like, both of those players were fantastic, but the teams that were around them were also really good. And so I don't know, it's weird. I think maybe that's part of the problem. Like, people's expectation has been built up by AD and Dana, where they were, lights out all the time. But it's because defenses had to account for other players on the floor, and those two players made up for it. Haley is making up for it sometimes, but sometimes if she's getting locked down, there's nothing around to. It makes her bad games look worse because someone is not picking up the slack.
That's a very good way to put it. And with it, on that, I think we can go ahead and move on into some final thoughts. And I'm going to do these in alphabetical order so I don't get confused and forget anybody. So, Case, you get to start at final thoughts.
Yeah, just was trying to come up with a quick one. So
that's what you get for being at the beginning of the alphabet, Case.
Yeah, that's what I have so much.
Your
that
name to Willie and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I shout out to the women's swimming team. They've had a lot of successes this season. Will have some swimmers in the NCAA tournament. They're sitting third in the ACC championships entering today. Almost had a win yesterday in the 400 medley relay. They had almost had a podium. They had the third fastest swim, but they were DQ'd. So that's tough. The race was won. This from the review or the recap. The race was won by the Virginia women with an NCAA and U.S. Open record time. So tough.
That
tough
was
to
amazing.
beat that. It was like 6 seconds faster than Louisville, and then Louisville was DQ'd. So that's kind of an incredible time. But Gabby Albiero, Christina Regenauer, Tristan Hewlett, they should all pretty comfortably be into NCAA championships. Um, so good for them, and looking forward to the rest of the season. See if Louisville can put another banner up in Ralph Wright.
Yeah.
We would sure love to see that. That is for sure. Love to see that happen. All right, Daryl, what you got for me on final thoughts?
My final thought is I just really hate Notre Dame. I don't know who said it. Maybe it does sting a little less now that Muffet's gone, but I don't know. I hope we get some payback in a couple weeks or next week when they're in town for the senior day. I hope that just got to get a win over Notre Dame because the Duke lost the other night. I think it was a perfect opportunity for the Cards to move up in the standings, but they just couldn't pull that one out. Very frustrating to have a player who averages 6 points go perfect on the night, 8 for 8, scored 20 points, and Haley Van Lith couldn't get a foul call for her. So I just can't. I'll be glad when it's back in our house.
It can certainly make a difference depending on where the game's being played. We've learned that. All right, Jared, what you got final thought was?
I'm excited to see the 2013 men's national championship team tonight. Being out
Where's
there on
got
the
my
court taking
tickets?
pictures. Hey, it happened. We all saw it happen.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
all these other teams that lost to us along the way still have that loss on their permanent record. So it happened.
And
That's
the
what we
NCAA
should have
never
put on
gave
the
me my
banner.
money back for my tickets.
That's what we should have put on the banner. Michigan lost a game on April 4th, 2013.
April 8th.
So it happened.
April 8th, 2013.
Go
Just
Cards.
put that on the banner right there, real big.
Oh,
That's
this is
funny.
about a
Michigan
piece of
lost.
cloth.
April 8th, 2013. That's a great idea, Case. I would.
Says it on their. I mean, it
mock
says
that
it on their
t-shirt up.
record.
The world
Just
knows
print-
we
just
won
screenshot.
NCAA.
Just screenshot a picture of their schedule from then.
Oh yeah, that'd be nice.
Oh, this is about a piece of cloth. Okay, there we go.
Hey, it's more than that.
But it's not. We all know what happened. We know we won. We know this is just the NCAA being their stubborn buttheads. But anyway, Jeff, what you got for me here?
I was excited to see it's only 2 weeks until Lumber. So yeah. I'm looking forward to getting out there. Oh man, I am. I can't wait to get back out there. I only got out there a few times last year, so I want to try and up that this year and get out there a
I'm
little more
going to
often.
do the same. Update my days out there as well.
Yep.
Hopefully, we'll be able to. Depending on how things go with me, I'm going to get out there as much as I can.
Yep.
Final thoughts on this end? Just I want to shout out Sam Purcell. We
Yeah.
don't talk about Sam much anymore, obviously, since he's down in Mississippi State. But here's a guy who kind of just said, "Yeah, I'll take that job. Different conference, sure, no problem." Team that kind of came in and beat us up in an NCAA semifinal game a couple years ago, no problem. All those guys are gone. A chance for me to be a head coach, yes, I'll take it. And in his first year, he's doing a very good job with the Bulldogs down there, 7-6 in a very tough SEC conference, and 18-8 overall. So my hat's off to Sam. He came in and took a situation which could have basically gone either way for him, and he made it shine. And so I'm proud of you, Sam. Keep up the good work down there. I'm sure as the years go on, they'll get to know your incredible sense of humor and also the way that you go about building and coaching the team. And I'm proud of you, buddy. And we're proud of you all for listening today. Certainly, we'll be back this time next week. And if you have any things that you'd like for us to talk about on the show, go ahead and leave a comment in one of our columns each day. We'll be happy to consider it and maybe bring it to fruition. Until then, everybody have a great weekend and go Cards.